Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
With that, I'm going to introduce our speaker. Ayman is one of the program managers over working in the engineering team on Windows Phone, and he's going to give a talk on basically getting started with phone development, specifically using Silverlight. So without further ado, here's Ayman.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you. Thanks. Can everyone in the back hear me, or is this? Can you guys hear me? All right, cool, awesome. All right, let me just switch it over to the other. Okay. Just tap the screen. Oh, tap the screen? All right, cool, sounds good. All right, so basically, as Ben said, I'm actually from the Silverlight for Windows Phone team. Today, I'll just go over kind of some of the basics of what is really Silverlight and how you can use it for the phone, and basically how to get started, like writing cool apps. So basically, just the key takeaways here, just to how to create a Silverlight application, how to leverage your own creativity, and basically what are the tools to actually make it happen. So basically, the cool part about Silverlight is it gives the ability for folks to collaborate together. So if you're a good programmer, you can actually use it in collaboration with a great designer. So the idea is it actually created this unique interface between the two that folks can actually collaborate together and do a lot of cool, powerful stuff. Now, the other advantage of Silverlight is in terms of you also have a lot of things out of the box that you can actually use and get you going quicker and faster. And so basically also the other Silverlight capabilities is you also have the other kind of capacities that you can use it. So whether it's actually it's Zamel based, and I'll go into details of what is that. And also in terms of input, it's actually geared towards a keyboard, mouse, touch, so on. And also in terms of media, where that's its kind of core strength. As well as you have other kind of connectivity with other data and other kind of networking data services model that you can connect to as well. So basically the idea is the elements kind of for Windows Phone development, it's not just like one area, it's actually a collaboration of all folks together. So basically you have the runtime, you have for the phone, you have Silverlight as well as XNA in order for you to be able to create your app. So basically both have access to the phone in terms of sensors, what is kind of the media stack, as well as the managed runtime framework for it. Now the cool part about Silverlight and XNA is they are the same model that you had on the desktop, so you can actually leverage and reuse your code as much as possible. So basically we're already, so if you have an XNA game that's actually on the Xbox, you can actually now port it over to the Windows Phone, which is really easy to do. As well as if you have like a Windows Silverlight desktop app that you want to port over to the phone, you can do that as well easily. Now also in terms of the tools, you have in terms of the Visual Studio and Microsoft Visual Blend, where you have the phone emulator, you have an abundance of samples. Of course, with Microsoft, it's developers are always number one, developer. That's the bottom line. So, and also in terms of, so you also have an abundance of tools, basically Visual Blend and as well as Visual Studio for Windows Phone. Now, also you have that connected with the cloud as well, where you have Windows Azure, you also have Xbox Live Services for certain partners, and we have the ability to actually connect you to the cloud easily. And also, the other part of it is the services for the Windows Phone services, where if you're an app developer, you need to register, and basically it monitors all your revenue, it manages all your kind of, okay, what is the money coming in for you, and what are the number of installs, who installed your apps, so on and so forth. So it's actually giving you a lot of cool services on top of that. So basically, what is kind of Silverlight for phone? Just kind of a quick question: how many people here know about Silverlight? Okay, cool. So it's not so bad. Okay, so most of the folks here are interns, like from college. Yes. Yep. All right. Okay, that's a yes. All right. Cool. That sounds good. So So basically, yeah, so for Silverlight for phone, it's basically just, currently right now on Windows Phone 7, it was Silverlight 3, plus those modifications. Right now in Mango, we have actually Silverlight 4. So all the cool kind of data models there, we actually also ported it for Mango as well. So basically what is different is just simply, we did a lot of performance tuning, also in terms of the input integration with the device, and as well as we had integration with the camera and the media stacks on the phone as well. Also, the application model is more tuned towards the phone. So it's not this different kind of like on a browser. So we tweaked that to actually match more on the phone itself. And basically, we removed a lot of the constraints that you had in the browser. So for example, if you want to access camera, on the browser, you had to actually give permission or something like that. On the phone, you don't have that restriction. So some of those kind of restrictions we took them out. So basically, I'll just show you some demos real quick here. So the idea behind, so this is, all right. So this is basically a video brush, which is, let me just touch the screen. All right, there we go. We have the two. So let me just, so basically this is a video. This is a video playing. I can actually now take all parts of it and just basically kind of start playing around with it if I want to. I can scramble it. I can take each one of them by their own. I can actually solve it back in. So the idea, this is kind of the type of applications you can do with Silverlight as well, where you can take a media content, you can do whatever kind of creative stuff you wanted on top of it as well. Also, in terms of like Netflix, that's kind of one of our premier apps. Does everyone here have Netflix on the phone? Okay, so I think we can skip that demo. I guess everyone knows what Netflix. However, the cool part about it is we save Netflix a lot of time because they already have it on the desktop. So for them, actually porting it over on the phone was really easy in terms of the media stack and getting started as well. Here, what I'll show is actually something we're actually bringing in Mango, which is basically sockets. In RTM, we didn't have sockets. So sockets is basically the ability to, if you wanted to actually open a socket on a server, you can actually be able to communicate with it. So here, I call this Chat Plus, which is simply just a simple app. I can do this here, and I can do, let me see, it just depends on the network connectivity. So let's see if it actually works real quick. So here, basically what I'm doing is I'm drawing over here, and it's actually drawing on the other side. So it's basically sending data through multicast and through the network to the other device. And here, if I actually draw on the other one, I can do it as well. And I can draw both of them at the same time here. So that's basically one of the cool apps that can be enabled on Mango as well. So, and also there's a lot of cool apps out there. If I had time to kind of go through them, I would actually do that. But I think we'll just actually go through in terms of what you need to know in order to build those kind of cool apps. So basically, how many people here are familiar with Zamel? OK, cool. Sounds good. So we'll skip this one. So basically here, just the idea behind it is with Silverlight, the key objective, like if you're used to like programming with JavaScript or C++ or C#, everything is in code. In Silverlight, you have a lot of kind of the utilization of Zamel, where you can actually write everything in kind of an XML type format. Now, the cool part about it is it gives you the ability to interface with designers much quicker, which I'll show you later on with Blend and how to actually reuse some of those resources quickly. So basically, the idea is Silverlight is not just Zamel. You can also write code behind it as well, and you can leverage both at the same time. So basically here, I'll just show you a quick demo of how to actually create a Windows Phone project. Close to you. And OK. So basically, this is just a simple. We can't see. You can't. All right, just give me a second, bro. All right. So this is just all right. There we go. So this is Visual Studio. Oh my God, I can't see a thing. All right, OK. So the idea behind it is through like in the browser, like in Visual Studio, you can actually see what's going on. And here on Zamel, I can create whatever I want. Over here real quick. Let me just see here. Let me just hide that dude over here. All right. All right. You know what?
Hopefully everybody has a monitor that's higher than
Yes. So the idea behind it is I can create like whichever text box I can do. Like I can do it through code, and I can do it as well through Zamel as well. So for example, here in my grid, I can. Okay. So basically here is just the design where I can actually define where's my Zamel and where's my phone. And you can do that through the UI real quickly, where this is this one here, and it'll show you which stack panel you're, like if I click on the stack panel, it'll tell me which one is actually selected. So this way you can actually go ahead and program from it over there. And I'll go into stack panel, a grid, so on and so forth later on, as well to give you some of the differences. So yeah, that's just basically a basic idea of what Zamel looks like. I'll just, if I, okay. So the idea is I can add a button here, and you know what, let me just hide this too. There we go. So here you also have some of the other cool tools where you can actually know which position is it, and you can actually align it with other objects as well. Also, so basically this is what it actually created over here, where basically you have the button selected. So basically you can create this through Zamel, and basically you can go ahead from there. Now in terms of the C code, you can actually double click and it'll actually go into the C# code, where you can actually now hook up all the events. Now the cool part about this is in Zamel you don't have to actually go do the loaded, you know, in C++ where you actually have to define which events and hook them up to the controls. You can do that also through Zamel, much cleaner, like right over here at the end. Let me do this. Yeah, so you can define what is the, you know, basically the events on click, and you also have hookup to all the other events that you want. So for example here, I can do loaded, and you have like all the kind of the IntelliSense help that you can actually do and get you going real quickly. So with that, I can, I'll take that out of the way here and get back to the presentation. All right. Now, the other cool part is actually you can do a lot of things vector-based. So when you actually do things in C# and C++, if you wanted to do something that's actually more native to the app, either A, you can actually get an image and you have to write a program to actually manipulate it, which kind of becomes a little bit cumbersome. Here, it's basically you can actually take anything from either Photoshop or kind of Blend, where you can actually just basically take that Zamel and just put it immediately into the phone. And you can actually get going there quickly. Let me see here. Blend. So I'll just, and also and it actually shows you like a lot of cool things you can manipulate with Blend, and you can actually know exactly what to do with it. So I'll just show you here kind of a quick demo of Blend real quickly. Now the cool part about Blend is actually it creates a Microsoft project, so you can actually use it in collaboration with Visual Studio. So okay, let me just close this. So this is basically Blend and how it looks like, and I can just create a new project, and let's see, run this one application, and it actually creates the same template that you had on the phone as well, where you can actually now concentrate on the design and concentrate on everything related to it. Okay. So here I created a kind of a Silverlight app, and I can do a lot of cool things with it as well. Like this is a Listbox that I actually now designed with Blend. So if I wanted to actually manipulate any objects, just create, like change the colors or do any editing on the text, I can do that quickly. Now the cool part about it is, let me just do the view, sorry, F11 here. I can actually see the Zamel for it as well. So the idea is I can create something in Blend. I can just basically export it and just give it to someone else who is actually using it in Visual Studio as well. And also you can compare both of them at the same time, where you can see, okay, what are the changes you did in Blend, and how do they reflect back in on the phone themselves as well. I can just go there and just go back to the demo. Now, also the other part of it is with controls. You have a lot of controls in Visual Studio. So you have, like, in terms of buttons, you can actually do that in Zamel, as I said. And as well as you can do media element, you can do the Listbox, you can do all sorts of cool stuff with it as well. Also, anything that can be created in Zamel can be created in code as well. I think, yeah, we went through this demo here real quick. Now, I'll just go over kind of the differences between layout, canvas, and Stackpanel. So the idea is you can actually lay out your objects whichever way you want. So with canvas, it's basically a fixed position. So you draw out an area, you say, OK, this is what I want at this specific pixel. With Stackpanel, you're actually putting everything in either one row or one column. So basically, everything is just stacked up together. And with grid is basically self-explanatory. You can just position them like really kind of in coordination with each other. So I'll just kind of show you like a really quick demo here. Is there a way to put this thing in full screen on the thing? All right.
Unfortunately not.
All right, no problem.
Just touch it.
Touch it?
Touch it. If only everything was so easy.
There we go. All right. Could have done that like 10 minutes ago. All right, OK. All right, cool. So the idea behind it is I can just go over here real quick. And I can just, in this grid. So one of the actual examples of grids is this in the template, where you can actually define, well, what is the row definition and what is kind of the row height. So the idea behind it is I have a fixed amount of height, but the rows you can do as many as possible that you want. Here, basically, I'll just do an example of canvas. So I can do canvas and basically just draw a rectangle in it. Can everyone see this, or do you need me to project higher or something like that? Yeah, that's fine. OK. So basically, I can add rectangle real quick. And I can, now the cool part about this, I can do, like with I can say, OK, relative to the canvas, where do I want it? Like to the left, to the right. I can actually position where to start kind of the rectangle for it. And as well as I can say, OK, I want it at 50, as well as I can do canvas from the top to have it as a 50. And as well as I can define the width for the rectangle. And that's the cool part about IntelliSense. It will actually just type everything for you real quick, and it'll know exactly what you need to have. Also, basically, yeah, with, let's say, 100. And it is. And I can say a fill. Yeah, sorry. Red, like real quick here. And I can just close it down. And it'll actually just draw everything here. Now, any other rectangles will actually be stacked right next to it, basically in the same position as well. So the idea is it gives you the ability, instead of actually trying to align the rectangles yourself, it'll just make it actually a lot quicker for you as well. Now, also, let's say now I just want to have like another, like instead of this, I want to have what is it? Like a stack panel where stack panel, and I want to do it orientation-wise horizontal. Okay, you know what? Let me do this here. Is this better? All right. So no, this is not better actually. Okay. Also, so yeah, I can close this one down here, and I can now draw my rectangles in it as well. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask at any time. This is not like a presentation or anything. This is more of an informal kind of ask. If you have any questions of what about what I'm doing, please go right ahead and do it.
Over to your left.
Oh, yes.
Can you define this stuff in C# code as well, or only
Yes.
through Zamel?
Yes. So as I said before, so basically if I go to the view, say here, I can, oh, okay, sorry. I have to close this dude first. Okay. So let me just do this here. Go to view, and I can do code. And basically what I can do, I can just do rectangle. And basically it's the same objects that you have in Zamel as well, where you can do rec is equal to new rectangle, and you can do the whole definitions that you did in Zamel as well as here in code. So the idea is if you have event-based kind of programming, you want to modify it, you can do it also in code. Or if you have already some libraries where it actually defines the coordinates, you can also use them here as well. Any other questions?
I think you could set the zoom level for the text. It's easier for you to see when you're on the other.
Is it too big or is it too small?
Oh, for you, it might be too big.
Oh, yeah, that's all right. Don't worry about it. All right, okay. I can.
It's hard to see the whole.
All right, we'll do this.
If you zoom out of the emulator, maybe you can increase the size of the window.
All right, good point.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Everyone happy? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So, so basically here I can just do fill here real quick and do house blue. And I can do copy here real quick. So as you can see, it'll actually stack them correctly together. Like you don't have to actually have the hassle of defining where the coordinate is, where it actually happens. You can just copy paste the kind of the controls real quickly, and it'll actually just create them for you in that same stack panel correctly. You don't have to actually manage the coordinates, so on and so forth. Also, you can add the margin where you can actually have the spacing between them. So you can do margin, let's say 10. So you can actually now see it's actually increases the size between the both of them there as well. So yeah, that's basically the presentation for, this is for Stackpanel. For grid, you can actually define basically the, which row definition as well. So I'll just do a quick example here of it real quick. So I can do grid and show grid lines. I can say it's equal to true. And, no, sorry. And here, this is the important part is grid.definition. Oh, sorry. Where actually I can define, okay, what is really the height of each row that I want. So I can do, let me see here. Yeah, I can do height. For definition, so. Okay, and then I can say raw definition height is equal to 50. So basically you can see here it actually created one of the rows with that specific height, and the rest it actually leaves for other rows as well. So the idea behind it is here you can define how do you want to stack your grid and how do you want to assign your columns as well. So this way you can control the positioning of all your controls really quickly. So I'll just go right ahead quickly and, you guys had a question? Oh, okay, cool. That's convenient. All right, cool. That sounds good then. And also you can do this with the others. This is the row column. Yep. And you can close it down. And And you also can control the grid column as well here. Oh, sorry. So here what I'm doing is actually creating, oh, go ahead.
Where do we find these tools and resources and like the stuff online that we could work on this at home and teach ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, you can actually go on to MSDN, where basically you can go to the phone development page. And already we actually released the Mango tools for the next release of Windows Phone 7. So you can actually go ahead and pop them in, and you can actually start kind of coding and doing a lot of cool stuff.
The best place to go to jump off for everything phone related is create.msdn.com. We refer to that as App Hub. You can download the developer tools there. I recommend that if you're interested in the competition this summer, download the Mango tools. It's a public beta that came out last week. And there's links to sample apps, sample code. All the MSDN docs are linked to from the App Hub site.
All right. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So do you need to be running Mango on your phone to be able to use that? And how do you get the stuff onto your phone in the first place?
Oh, okay. So basically, like the tools that's actually available right now, you can use them for both, like Windows Phone 7 and as well as Windows Phone Mango. Now, the emulator that comes with it is actually the public release for the Mango build itself. If you wanted to actually put it on the phone, basically, you just have to register as a developer, where basically you get all the kind of the tools in order to unlock your device, and as well as to actually launch your kind of test app into the device that you have. Now you can buy any any device, any Windows Phone device, and you can update it to that, and you can actually launch your apps from there. Now I think we still haven't kind of released the actual on device. We only have the Mango builds on emulators right now. Later on, we'll have them on actual devices.
Yeah, I want to talk about this later, but we actually have phones at the ZapFest events. So I'm expecting that as we go forward and people are having apps that they want to test on a phone, I have phones that you can use at these events. As part of the contest, we're also going to provide loaner phones for the summer to each team that's going to build an app. So we will find a way to get a Mango-capable device to anyone who's going to participate in the competition. But like Iman said, the emulator's great. You can do pretty much everything there, especially in the beginning stages. But obviously, you're going to want to have a phone to finalize your testing performance and all of that.
Which build of Mango are we going to use? Which build of Mango is going to be put on the phone?
Say that again?
Which build of Mango is going to be put on the phone?
So the question was which build of Mango is going to be on the phones. The build that I have on the phones right now is I have the Friends and Family builds. So that was 7629 was the latest. I think there's a new Friends and Family build coming out this week, so I'll update the phones to whatever that is. But we will keep those phones moving forward as Mango releases come out throughout the summer.
All right, cool. So I'll just finish off this real quick for the grid. So the idea is, here what I did, I simply kind of defined what is the grid. Like I created the raw definitions. Here I created 2 rows and I created 2 columns. And what I'm doing here is basically now any shape that I have, I'm defining in which row and which column does it actually go to. So here basically I'm simply saying, okay, this should go into kind of column 0, and as well as go into into row 0, and I actually can close now the rectangle. Yeah, I did the fill. So you can see it actually now puts it in the correct kind of grid position that I want. So that's kind of the three differences between layout, like in layouts. You have canvas, you have, oh, go ahead, you had a question?
All right, well, how is overflow handled? So like, if the rectangle is bigger than the width of the column?
The way it actually does it is just, it depends on your definition. If you do a dot star, it'll actually just either expand it or it'll actually just snip it for you as well. So it'll just actually handle it for you. So yeah, with that, I can just move on to the next kind of demos. Now, with transforms, you have a lot of cool transforms you can do. So on all the shapes that we've actually drawn, you can actually do anything that you want. You can actually, we have a lot of kind of out-of-the-box solutions that you can actually use for animating or transforming any of the objects that you have. So, so any of the controls that you have, anything that's actually UI element, you can actually now transform it or kind of do some cool stuff with it. So for example, the video brush, the first example, the video puzzler one, is basically we took some of the elements and we just basically manipulated them with those transforms that we have here. So, so basically you either have transforms or you have projections where basically it applies 3D effects into 2D elements. So that's basically what we have on the phone. So basically the three types of animation you have storyboard, and in them you have animation, and you have the keyframes. So the idea behind it is with storyboard you define, it's kind of like you're doing a movie where you're saying, okay, on this clip I want it to be here, on that clip I want it to do this. And animation is actually the mechanism of doing all that. And with the keyframes you can actually specify the time frame that you want it. With that I can just show you quickly in Blend here. Let me see here. All right. So basically, this is our this is our Windows Phone page. So the idea is, I just want to draw. The cool part about Blend is actually it's designed for designers, so you can do a whole kind of cool stuff with it. So for example, here I want to draw a rectangle, and I'm just basically drawing this here. Now I can select it. I can do a whole kind of crazy stuff with it, where I want to select this. I want to do the opacity. I want to change the opacity a little bit here, down there, and I want to do some cool stuff with it, like a gradient type, where I can actually select it over here and select this color and select it something else. And I can select this color as this here. Yep. And what else is that? Okay. Yep. So this is a gradient brush. Here it basically selects what are the colors on. So here you can actually select, okay, this, I don't want it to be white. I want it to be something like green, and the black here, I want it to be this color over here. Oh, sorry. So you can do all kind of cool stuff with it. Basically, all those elements actually coincide well with whatever you have in the actual Visual Studio project. So basically, all the kind of terminology are actually almost the same. So if you're actually a designer working with the developers, you can actually collaborate much easier. Go ahead.
So in your runtime, do you have already implemented APIs for things like face recognition or voice to text or voice recognition and things like that that may be useful in mobile applications?
No, so currently we don't actually have those implemented as by default. But there's like a lot of code out there in the developer community that's actually make those very easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
But you could also use services.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Some of the things that you just mentioned, like speech to text, there's a service part of Provide, which you can actually use and send it off to the cloud, get it done, and then come back.
But doesn't have this latency problem with going to cloud?
It does have, of course, because it's a network hop. But the good thing is you get to do those things on your device.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks.
So here, basically, what I want to do is I want to do some cool animation on this. So what I'll do, I'll just go to the Zamel page here. So that, oh, sorry, another one. So here you can see you have all the Zamel code. And what it did for you, it actually just saved you a whole bunch of time on kind of defining what's the gradient. We'll do the same trick we did before. We minimized, yep. So you can see here, basically, it actually drew up all the Zamel for you. So you don't actually need to actually worry about, okay, what's the color for this, what's the color for that. You can actually just use Blend. It'll actually just make it easier for you. And the cool part is, this project can actually be opened in Visual Studio. So for example, I can say, edit here, sorry. I can say here, and like I can select the actual part. Okay. Wait. The mouse is a little. So you can actually also view the Zamel for it. So moving on, I'll just show you kind of how to do animation. So here, what you have to do is just basically create a new storyboard. So we'll just do a demo here. So here, what you have on the left pane is actually the timelines that you want. So now we're actually starting recording. So what I can do, I can just select this, move it over here. Oh, sorry. I can say over here, I can say at this time frame, I want it to be over here. And as well as I can do some, all right. Basically, we have a lot of cool stuff in terms of the easing function, where I can actually now apply other transforms to it as well. So for now, I actually moved it over here, and then I want to do something at this time where I want to rotate it a little bit. So this is the projection. I'm actually rotating it like towards us, and I want to do this as well here, where I actually rotate it this way. And then at this time frame, I want to move it over here, basically. So the idea is now I can do a play. It'll actually do all this for you as well. So the idea is it'll create all this storyboard for you real quickly. You don't actually have to write all this code. You don't have to worry about, oh, okay, if this at this projection, I have to apply this function to it. It's just, you can just apply it here real quickly. You can get going easily. And as I said before, and also if you want to stop, you can just stop kind of the launching of it as well. Also here, oh, F11. And also you have, so basically all this, it actually created all this kind of storyboard in Zamel for you. So you can actually use it, as well as it created all these transformations that you had, which is basically, as I said before, you can apply transforms into any object that you have. Here we actually applied it to the rectangle. And also the cool part about Blend is you can actually launch it in the emulator as well. So it's basically as if it's actually a development like tool for you as well. So I can now launch it in the emulator. I can see how it actually looks. Now I think here the problem is simply what will happen is it won't move. It will actually be static. Now the reason is because we actually just created the storyboard. We didn't hook up the events for it. Now there's two schools of thoughts. One is to actually leave it to the developer to hook up all the events and just basically have the designer do kind of what's really the behavior. The other one is actually just have the designer actually also define what's the behavior if it's actually something really quick. And in Blend, you can actually do that really quickly. So here you can actually, this emulator, you can run it from Visual Studio as well as Blend. So the idea is you don't have reduced functionalities as well. So basically, this is the app. I can actually keep it in there. And I can actually just run again for it. So, all right, let's go. All right. So here the idea is I can now define a new behavior where I can say, you can go to, on the left side, you can select all these controls. One of them, you have a lot of things out of the box. So for us, what we want is actually something called behaviors. So the idea is here, you can actually control a lot of the events in your program you can actually hook them up from from Blend as well. So the idea is here, I want to control the storyboard. When does it happen? That's what I want to do, and to what do I want to apply it? So instead of actually writing it in code, I can actually do it from the UI here real quick. Yeah, so here I actually select which element that I want to actually apply it to. I say this one over here. Let me just see. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can say on this dude, and oh, did it create both at the same time? Yes. Here, basically, I say, okay, on which do I want to actually apply it to, which we said the rectangle, and basically, what's the event? And let's say here just loaded. Like once it loads, I want it to apply this animation. So once we go back into kind of the emulator. Okay, I forgot to do one thing here. Okay. Let me see here.
Did you set up the start button?
Yeah. sorry, yeah, this one. Yep. So yeah, so basically you can actually do it really quickly, really easily. So yeah, that's basically what's there in transforms. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it, a lot of cool animations. And I'm like the technical guy. I don't know like a lot of cool stuff to do, but probably all of you guys have a lot of cool ideas to actually implement on the phone. And we're looking forward to it. So that's that demo here. And we'll now, the other cool part about Silverlight is actually you can apply a consistent format to everything. So the idea behind it is you can actually, in your resources, you can define what's really the style that you want to apply. So here real quickly I can all right, so the idea behind it is here is simply in this example here, what I'm doing is just saying what's the target type, like any text box that I want it to have these set of properties. So here basically what I'm saying, you always have the setter which says, okay, I want the font size to be this and I want the property to be a certain point. Now this is very basic. Now you can actually go crazy in terms of the style. And this is actually how we implemented it on the phone as well, where basically we applied the style specific for the phone which matches the Metro design, which basically makes it more consistent with the shell UI itself. So basically any app that you write out of the box, it actually looks like as if it's a first-party app. It's not something like a third-party developer have written it. So with that, I can just go quickly into the demo. So here I created an already done project. Let me just do this here real quick. So basically, this is any projects that you have. All right, let me just hide this here real quick. So here, what we have is just simply a project of. What the hell? All right, just real quick. 10. Okay. So here, basically, what we have, I created an app that has 3 types of buttons. So basically here, in my main page.zamel, I have the default button, which is simply, yeah, it's going to be tricky. Yeah, you know what? No, it's not going to be tricky. All right, there we go. Yeah, let me just zoom this dude. So the idea behind it here is I have 3 types of buttons. This one, the first one, is just simply I did button Zamel, width, so on and so forth. And basically, I didn't set it up to any style. The second one, I basically applied like a really quick style to it, which is basically custom button. So if you actually go to this style over here, basically what I did is I just say, okay, the control template, which is basically saying, okay, what do I want to do with the actual UI? And I said basically set the width to it to the height of the template itself. So this way it automatically calculates it for you. So basically if you expand it, you collapse it, you can actually, it'll maintain kind of the same height and width. Here basically I just, as we did like in Blend, I defined kind of what's the gradient color and where does it stop, where does it end. So basically those are kind of the radial gradient brush, which basically defines, okay, you can do like the colors here and the other colors over on the other side. So basically this is the offset and what is really the colors on both ends of the spectrum. And basically, yeah, I defined this is kind of the, I defined my, my button to be an ellipse, and it defined what's that ellipse is actually filled with. Here the content presenter is basically simply whatever is the content of the button. So when you go actually to main page.zamel and you see this content over here, it's basically this one over here. It's like, how do you want to present this content of the button? And that's basically what we did over here real quick. Now, of course, I have another style here for text. So it's not only just for buttons. You can also do it for all types of controls. So here I have one for text. I can just show you real quick how does it make a difference? So here, this is called subheading text. So basically, we have this. Keep an eye on this text over here. All I'm going to do is just simply, instead of actually using the default phone templates, default phone styles, I'll just change it to something else. So I'll just go with heading. What was it called? Subheading text. Thanks. So basically, it kind of flipped it over like real quickly for you. So the idea is if you have like multiple text, you want them to have the same style, you can do that. And the way you do it is you actually have something, an app.zamel, which basically holds your resources. So the idea behind it is in your application resources, you can set the common things for all the pages in your app to actually use. So yeah, that's basically one of them. Here, for now, this is actually a very complicated, like a really cool, but kind of somewhat kind of involved template. So the idea behind this one here, I'll just show you kind of snippets of it, is basically we're defining how it looks like. Now we're also defining the transition, like if you click it, what will happen in the background, what color does it give. So the idea is you're giving some transitions to it as well. So the way you control that is actually by Visual State Manager. So the idea behind it is you can create the template as we did before. Then you can actually define your Visual State Manager, which will kind of give you all the storyboards on top of it, where you can define how does it behave at certain points. So I'll just go over it real quickly here. What we're doing here is just simply creating the storyboards that we want and giving them names that coordinate with the events. Like when I press, I say visual state.pressed, and it'll actually do this animation for me. And the same thing with if it's actually disabled as well. Like if it's disabled, it'll actually be a different color. So yeah, with that, I can just show you like a real quickly how does it look like in Zamel and on the emulator here. Let me just close this. Do it first. Anyone has any questions until this thing comes up? Oh, okay. Oh, go ahead.
Can you actually create the styles and then expression blend as well?
Yes. Yes, you can. And actually, there's a lot of cool tools there as well, where you can actually like add a new style. You can do it, and you can actually export it as well. Or you can actually just open it up in Visual Studio, and the style will be there as well. So the idea is here, this is the default button, which was from phone page. This one here, we didn't define the kind of the pressed events, so it's just simply kind of the shape of it. This one here, as you can see, we're actually managing the visual state for it, where we're actually saying, okay, change the color for it once I pressed on it. So here it gives you an idea what styles you can do. Like if you wanted like a custom control or anything that you wanted, you can actually do very easily as well with Silverlight. And with that, we can just go real quick here. All right. Now, the other cool part is... Oh, we have a question, yes.
About the events in the states.
Yes.
Are they based on like the states from a mouse? I mean, in Silverlight, because I saw like focused and as far as like left button down or up. How does that connect to?
Everyone's going for the pizza. All right.
How does that sync up with the phone? In terms of how the phone renders Silverlight?
Now it syncs up. So the way you actually like in terms of like all the events that you have in Silverlight, you can actually hook them up through the visual state control. So that's kind of the way you would do them. So your question is how easy it is, or how? Like, what's the limitation?
What's specific to the phone?
Specific to the phone. It's basically whatever you want it to be. So basically you give each state like a name, and you basically enable it whenever you hook it up to the events that's actually available on the phone. So whatever actually events available on the phone, you can actually hook them up to it. So that's kind of the way you do it. Please, go ahead.
What's the concurrency model of these events? Are they atomic? Can they, I don't know, yeah, are they atomic?
You mean in terms of like atomic? You mean in terms of like, does it only happen like on that object, or?
Yeah. So is this event and that event, or they can be interleaved and mess up the idea of the.
Oh, you mean okay? I see what you mean. They could. I mean, like for controls, it won't happen that often, but it should be fine. Like it is kind of atomic, but it's basically up to you basically to handle it. Okay.
It's not guaranteed by the underlying model.
No, it is actually guaranteed. Like each event that you actually hook up with, it'll actually fire the correct event for you. Okay. Cool. Should we give folks 5 minutes? All right. Okay. 5 minutes.
You can have some more pizza.
Pizza. All right. Okay. So the next item we're actually going to talk about is just simply, like, if you have a list box, how do most people here actually control what's in the list box? And you select something out, how does it go away? Like, how do you actually manage the data that you have in your app? Just as a general question, like, how do you guys usually do it? Data binding? Yeah, okay, good point. Yeah, so basically here what we have is just a simple way of actually managing how do you actually connect the data with the controls that you have. So here what we have is actually property binding as well as list binding as well. So the idea is, let's say you have a list box, you can just control one item of it, where you can just control the observable collection or any kind of list that you have, and it'll actually automatically update your list box automatically. So this way you don't actually need to manage basically, okay, selected, make sure you take it out, and you have to manage like multiple data at the same time. You can just control it from one endpoint. So basically there's a couple of ways of it doing it. You can actually do it in a two-way connection or in just a one-way. So either you can have the source control what's over there, or you can have them both controlling each other as well. So with that, I can just actually show you a quick demo here. I love this mouse. All right. So basically, this is the solution that we have done. So basically, what I'm doing is simply, I have a list of images that I basically have automatically kind of pre-populated. And all I'm doing is just basically putting them in a list box. So what I'll show you now is actually just simple binding, and what does it mean, and like list binding, how do you actually do it, as well as some advanced scenarios where you can actually implement your own kind of collections. So it's not just simply text. You can actually add anything you want in a list box, where you can add images plus text. The list goes on and on. So with that, I can just show you some code like real quick on the simple one. All right. So the simple one is just simply what I'm going to do is just take two list box and just let one control the other, what's actually going over there. So I'll just add, what is it? This text box, as well as this text block over here. So the idea is you can think of it as you want to implement like a typing kind of scenario as well. All right. So here we have these two text blocks, and what I'm going to do is just rename them real quick. So I'll just say this is input, and this is output. And what I'll do is just basically add like a data binding to it. So what I'll do is simply here just say I'll say what's the text in it, and I'll just say sorry, I want to bind it to something, and I say I want to bind the text. So it's kind of like, okay, what do you want to bind? So this is the target property that you want to actually bind. And you can also add like with which kind of control that you want to bind it to. So the idea behind it is here, let's say you have multiple controls. Instead of actually knowing which property you want, you can just actually hook that control with the other one very quickly and very easily. So here, basically, I can just say element. All right, sorry. Excuse me?
Is that like an element you would say like path equals text, which is a property name, and then the element will be the other object or control?
Yes, exactly. That's how it's going to be. So just take a quick look. I think I have another text, that's why. Yeah, this one here. Here I can give it an element name, and I can say input. And close this bad boy here. And here we're good. Yeah, I got it. All right, there we go. So the idea behind it is here, we can actually run this real quick. So here I can control it, basically saying this, and you can see it actually automatically binds it to the other text. And so basically you don't actually need to add the event saying, okay, this is equal to that. Here it's actually handled for you pretty quickly. So that's kind of like some of the simple kind of data binding that you can do quickly on the phone. Now for Listbox, it's kind of the same thing as well. So I'll just basically stop debugging this session here. Yeah. And we can go to so here we can actually go to the list Zamel kind of example, where I can create like a quick list box. So what I'll do is just simply drag and drop like a really quick list box here. And what I'll do is just basically in my Zamel, I'll just create like a really quick in my code, I'll just create like a quick string over here of stuff of what it is. So I'll just do a string of stuff over there. Let me see here. Also, if you want, I can show you kind of the way that you can do two-way binding as well, where you could have two of them actually control each other. So if you want, we can go ahead and do that. Here, I'll just continue this on real quick. So basically here I can do aircraft. And in my thing here, I can do aircraft. Sorry, I can do it this way here. B15. Oh, sorry. So what I'll do here is just simply say here, basically bind this to the list that I actually created, listbox.1.item source. Is basically just equal to aircraft. So the idea behind it here is I don't need to actually, sorry, yeah, I think it's better this way. Yeah, there we go. So basically what I'm doing is just basically creating a list box and just immediately giving the source to any kind of type of collection that I have. So the idea behind it is you don't need to worry about the types. You don't have to worry about, okay, if this type actually matches that one. You can just immediately, any type of collection, you can actually just set your controls to that item, and you can control the content of the list box from this collection over here that you have. And that's basically it for this app over here. So if I go to list binding, it actually automatically kind of just basically points it out, and you can actually edit them the way you want.
What if you have a list box, but with each row is a custom view?
Perfect. That's the next one we're actually looking at. So this one here is now the advanced one, or the one that we're actually taking a look at. Let me just So basically, this is the advanced view. Basically, what I have is in my Zamel. All right. This is kind of the way you would control it. So you would actually just have to, in your list box, you will create a data template with item templates as well. So here you actually define how does the data look like. So what we did here, we actually defined the item template, and we defined like a data template type. And we basically said like, okay, the data should look like in a stack panel where you have, as we said, Stackpanel stacks them together at the same time. And you don't have to worry about a thing. And here, basically what you're saying is, I want it both. I have to have the source as an image and as well as a text box, which is basically the most common kind of scenario that you will have. Here, basically, we said, okay, bind this to like thumbnail and name. Now, those actually come from the specific class that we actually created. So the way you would do it is simply we create an aircraft class, which simply is just a string and like the source to the actual images that you want to actually set. So all we did is just basically define those, and what we did is basically we made it inherit iNotification property changed. So with this, what it does is just simply says, okay, I want this to be hooked up with the notification events. So this way, whenever it actually changes, it actually raises up an event. So you basically go through your kind of normal kind of methods as well as constructors. Here, this is the important part where you can actually say in the set, you can actually fire up the event saying, okay, a property has changed. So this way, if you have a collection of this class and it actually changed, you can actually now fire up the event and you can actually handle it. The listbox will actually handle it for you. And the same thing with the thumbnail as well, where if that happened, you can actually raise it up and you can actually raise this events over here, which is thumbnail. And that's how you got the data binding one, where name and thumbnail, basically they come from those over here. So back to our XAML over here. So basically that's it. We just defined kind of the data template and how does it look like. And now the other item we need to hook up is just simply the button, where if I click delete, it actually takes it out. So going to the code for that one, let me just see here. So here, what I'm doing simply is just creating a list of type class. And that's how you have to do it. So any items that you want it to actually be able to data bind, it has to be a type from the generic class. So it either can be a list, an array, or any kind of genetic collection that you want. Here, basically, I'm just statically creating them one by one, and I'm just basically data binding the listbox that I have into this observable collection that I just created. So it's just simply, I have a collection, I just set it up there, and that's it. Now here in the deleted button, all I'm doing is just simply deleting it from the actual collection that we created. So we're not actually we're not managing the actual listbox, we're managing the observable collection for it. And that's how it's actually being controlled. And with that, yeah, that's basically how you can actually do data binding with the Silverlights. Any questions in regards to this? Okay, cool. We can actually just move along. I think we're at right time here. And basically the idea behind, just kind of to wrap up things, the idea behind it is just make sure you can, if you have code on the desktop, especially with Silverlight, make sure you can actually reuse it. Especially also if you have custom controls, you can actually port them in very easily to the phone. Also in terms of, if you have, so you basically just reuse as much as UI and as much as code that you want from the desktop into the phone as well. And with that, basically just the call of action is just download the tools, start building like really cool apps. You guys are young, you guys have a lot of cool ideas. And yeah, if you have any questions, please let us know and we can help you out. Cool. Any questions?
Will you be posting all the examples that you just did today?
Yes, I will. Yep. Any questions? It's okay. Oh, please.
Can you post those examples to the website that we don't have to be in the domain to access them?
All right, cool.
We're supposed to work at home, but we only have access to the page at work.
I see what you mean. Okay.
Repeat the question.
Basically, the question is, can we post them instead of just in a domain kind of instead of just posting it internally, can we actually also post it externally as well, where folks actually from home can actually download them? I can post those up. Those shouldn't be so bad. Yep. Cool.
All right, thanks.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys.